Hello everyone, this is your friend Saiyan Paradox Audio Fanfic and we are back in new fanfic. What if Kid Goku met Caulifla before Master Roshi? They changed Dragon Ball History Part 3. Caulifla stood in an empty void, clad in the same orange GI mutant Roshi gave her for fighting in the Tenkaichi Budokai. Looking around, there was nothing. No landmarks, no sounds, just eerie silence. It wasn't until a very large door opened up ever so slowly and light cracked through its passage, causing Caulifla to reflexively shield her eyes with her arms. The light flickered and tremorous thumping was heard from behind the door. The door continued to slowly open, until a loud deafening roar reverberated from behind it. Whatever this roar belonged to was not keen on waiting for this door to open, and began to smash against it with primal ferocity. Caulifla immediately took a stance, ready to take down this beast like so many others before. The door flew open, only for Caulifla's confidence to immediately fade. The beast was an Uzaru, much like the one she became under a full moon, and just like Goku had become during the Tenkaichi Budokai. Cartoons. The giant monkey surveyed the room, its blood-red eyes looking for prey, until it finally saw little Caulifla trembling before it. The Uzaru let out another roar and began to stomp towards the girl, causing her to instinctively run from being crushed underfoot. She was not moving fast enough to keep ahead of the monster's pace, and one large footstep caused the ground underneath her to crumble and catapult her into the air and land against a wall of the room. The Uzaru's silhouette was accented by the light given off by the door, its eyes glowing to add to the nightmarish aspect. The monster let out a roar and pulled back a fist aimed directly at her. She was unable to move as fear gripped her beyond reason. This was it. This monster was going to kill her. Caulifla shouted, sitting upright, coated in sweat. Her breath was quick and erratic. She wasn't in any bed. In fact, wind was rushing by her very quickly, making the sweat on her skin feel even colder than it was. She looked around and saw that she was sitting atop a welcome sight, the soft yellow fluff of Kintoan. She sighed and looked around, noticing Goku was still asleep, and still wearing the blindfold made of her own GI, and still bearing the tail that was at the base of his backside, now curled around his waist. She reached for her backside and felt there was no tail present, much to her relief, but the sensation in her tailbone increased by a margin since yesterday. Looking down at the earth below, she noticed that dawn was breaking, and the sun had begun to rise over the horizon, and the moon was nowhere to be seen in the sky. What they were flying over was a forest not unlike the one she traversed when first seeking out the monkey boy of Fungus Town, but her position atop Kintoan gave her a newfound perspective of what she was traveling through. Mount Paozu must be close by. Goku began to stir with a loud yawn, sitting upright and scratching the back of his head, only to notice the blindfold where he usually scratches. He began to try and remove it but stopped when he remembered what happened yesterday. Caulifla saw this and gave a pat on his back. "It's all good," Caulifla consoled. "The moon's set, so you can take that off." Goku sighed and removed the blindfold. He did so slowly so as to allow his eyes to adjust. When he saw the sun rising up over the horizon, he looked over to see Caulifla smiling, yet covered in sweat. "You okay?" he asked. Caulifla hesitated, but sighed. She could trust him. "I had a nightmare last night. It involved the Uzaru. If it's worth anything, I didn't have pleasant dreams either," Goku consoled. "Well, nightmares aside, your hut should be nearby," Caulifla changed the subject. "I recognize these forests." "I do too," Goku agreed, now seeing where Kintoan was flying over. "Kintoan knows where my house is, so we can take the time to wake up, till we get there." The trip was uneventful and quick as the duo atop Kintoan were placed in front of the home of Son Goku, to which the two dismounted with a small hop. "Thanks Kintoan." Goku thanked his mode of transportation as it zoomed back into its domain above. "Pardon the mess, by the way." "It's fine," Caulifla waved off. Goku invited Caulifla inside, and to no one's surprise, the layer of dust from Goku's first return trip had increased dramatically, for he had been gone longer than before. You could do for a good sweeping though. And a restock of some supplies too, Goku added, looking at the slightly unkempt state his home was in. I'm gonna go foraging. Anime and manga. Foraging? Caulifla asked, head to the side. Yeah, Goku answered. I've been living alone in these mountains my whole life, so I gotta improvise. It's not like you don't know, right? Those makeshift mattresses during Roshi's training. Oh right, Caulifla said. I guess I never figured you for that sort. I'll be back in a little bit. Make yourself at home, Goku stated. Sure, Caulifla acknowledged with hesitation as Goku made his way into the forest, now out of earshot. Make myself at home. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Caulifla stepped out of the small hut, looking around the clearing that enveloped Goku's home. She clearly didn't want to sit on her hands while Goku went off to handle some of his chores. Looking around, she saw a pretty big boulder. Could practice the Kamehameha for a bit, Caulifla thought. Exercise my ki reserves. Me, Caulifla chanted as she drew from her latent ki and focused it into her hands. She thrust her palms towards the boulder, easily boring a hole into it, but much to her surprise, the blast pierced the boulder with far more ease than she anticipated, and the blast was heading towards the forest. Oh crap! Caulifla shouted as she raised her hands up in an effort to divert the blast. Fortunately for her, the blast followed her whim and diverted upward until it dissipated. Okay, that was too close. I guess I've graduated from boulders. Everything okay there? A familiar voice called from the other side of the clearing. Caulifla turned to see it was Goku. A fresh tuna hung over one shoulder and what was once a particularly irate wolf over the other. I noticed you fire a Kamehameha and divert the blast at the last second. Yeah, the boulder I was testing kinda gave way. Caulifla sheepishly admitted, gesturing a thumb at the now crumbling boulder. I'm guessing that fish is for breakfast, but what's the wolf for? Wolf fat makes for good wax and oil, Goku answered with a grin. That way I can keep my lanterns fueled and make candles if I need 'em. Of course the meat is pretty good also, and the hide is useful for a number of things. Efficient, aren't ya? Caulifla commented on the boy's survival skills. Oh hey, your tail grew back, Goku commented. Anime and manga. Caulifla muttered, turning around to check her backside. What she saw caused her to scream loud enough to spook several flocks of birds from their places in the treetops. True to Goku's words, her tail had indeed grown back. How did I miss it growing back? Maybe it grew back while you were firing that Kamehameha. Goku theorized. I mean, mine grew back when I got trapped by that kaiju Jiren guy's gum. Well, welcome back you nightmare, curse you, Caulifla sarcastically addressed her regrown appendage. Speaking of which, Goku called out. I've got an idea that might help with our training for this. Do tell, Caulifla responded, now giving the boy her attention. Since both of us going Uzaru would end badly, Goku elaborated, earning a harsh, obviously. I roll from Caulifla. I think I might know of a good way to prevent one of us from turning. Anime and manga. Okay. First you had my attention, but now I'm intrigued, Caulifla nodded along, waiting to hear Goku's solution. Sunglasses. Immediately, Caulifla palmed her face and groaned. No, seriously. Hear me out, Goku said. We only turn Uzaru under a full moon. Not when it's a crescent or a giblet. Gibbous, Caulifla corrected, still palming her face. Right. So maybe it's the moonlight that causes it, and there's only enough moonlight for us to transform when the moon is full. I think I see where you're going with this, Caulifla acknowledged, removing her hand from her face. So, the full moon makes us go Uzaru because there's enough moonlight, but if we used sunglasses to reduce that, we wouldn't turn. Exactly. Caulifla was surprised that Goku had formulated such an elaborate hypothesis. Well, why didn't you say so sooner? Caulifla asked with a grin. We could have asked Mutant Roshi for some sunglasses before we left him. I only came up with the idea just now, Goku admitted with a chuckle. Oh, Caulifla responded flatly, followed by a chuckle of her own. And here I thought you were gonna turn out to be a brilliant scientist or something. Unknown location. Achoo. A grown man donned in a strange set of armor sneezed violently. The man sniffed and rubbed the underside of his nose. Someone's talking about me. Well, in any case, let's prep breakfast. Goku announced, ready to process the fish over his shoulder. The two proceeded to gut the fish and scrape off the unwanted scales. The fins were cut off and they, along with the other unwanted materials of the fish, into a pile for later disposal. A quick campfire was prepared and the butchered tuna was skewered above the flames, turning it slowly to ensure the dead beast was thoroughly cooked. Halfway through the cooking process, Goku applied some fresh honey he acquired from a beehive, the fruits of Mutant Roshi's evasion training, leaving him with no stings, and smeared it lightly along the meat before it would return to the fire. In time, their noses deemed the fish ready and they cut it into fillets, garnishing the servings with locally found mint leaves. Once breakfast was served, they dug in. It didn't take long for the carcass to be picked clean, and the two were sat in front of the campfire, satisfied with their cooking. It's nothing like their more elaborate kitchen work, but it was certainly better than just roasting a fish and eating it there and then. Eventually, a random thought crossed Caulifla's mind and she looked over at Goku, patting his stomach, which was happily digesting its meal. This thought spurred her curiosity and she had to ask the boy about it. Hey Goku, Caulifla spoke up. Goku reacted. What's up? Spur of the moment question, but when's your birthday? This took the spiky-haired boy by surprise and began to think, rubbing his chin in an inquisitive manner. I don't really know, Goku answered honestly. I know Grandpa Gohan found me one day and I don't think he knows either. So then how do you know how old you are? Caulifla questioned, arching an eyebrow. Maybe Grandpa Gohan guessed how old I was when I was found. Goku shrugged. I'm the same way, I guess, Caulifla said, her tone shifting from its usual demeanor. Are you alright? Fine. Just thinking back is all. We can change the subject if you want, Goku suggested, taking note of Caulifla's tone shift. Before Caulifla could respond, an unfamiliar noise was caught by the duo's ears. It was still very far away, but was definitely coming this way. As it drew closer, the noise was recognized as a jeep, similar to what Bulma had used for her traversal of Mount Paozu before Goku destroyed the vehicle, thinking it was a monster. Someone's coming this way, Caulifla spoke up. Who would be coming all the way out here though? Goku inquired, standing up and assuming a fighting stance. His tail began to wrap around his waist for safety and Caulifla was quick to do the same. The two looked sternly in the direction of the noise, wondering who might be coming. Goku suspected it might have been that bear bandit that wanted to make Mutant Roshi's turtle friend his lunch, but it was too early to tell. Eventually, glints of metal were seen deep in the forest and the jeep rolled out into the clearing before stopping. The engine died down, indicating the driver was getting out, and the driver's side door opened. What happened next was a surprise, as out from the driver's side door hopped a small girl clad in blue and pink armor, the term, armor, being used very loosely as it was more akin to a bikini than anything else, a helmet with a massive blade on top, and a cape. The mystery guest was none other than Gyumao's daughter, Chi-Chi, and she looked absolutely livid. Anime and manga. Oh no! Goku groaned in despair as he relaxed his fighting stance, causing Caulifla to do the same. He was not looking forward to this meeting, all while Caulifla was confused. Son Goku! Chi-Chi screamed in fury. Do you have any idea how I feel right now? To be led on like this, you big jerk. You're ducking out on marrying me. So this is Chi-Chi. Caulifla muttered, seeing the irate girl for the first time, and here I thought I was a hothead. Modesty doesn't seem to be her thing, given her get-up. Chi-Chi marched straight to Goku, causing the boy to sweat nervously. I tried to clear things up, but you weren't home. Goku defended, raising his hands up. Yumao must have told Chi-Chi, and it is obvious now that she didn't take it well. I really didn't know what marriage meant until I figured out when training with mutant Roshi. Can you seriously be that stupid? Chi-Chi shrieked, causing both Goku and Caulifla to wince. How can you not know what marriage is? I've been living here alone for most of my life. Goku retorted, trying to find words to quell Chi-Chi's newfound fury. Grandpa Gohan never explained the concept before he died. And you agreed to something you knew nothing about. I'm really sorry, Chi-Chi. Goku bowed, hands together. I didn't mean for this to happen. Chi-Chi's temper began to calm, until she finally noticed Caulifla's presence, to where she flared up again and a renewed fury was directed at Goku once again. Who is she? Chi-Chi demanded. Goku stammered, trying to find the right words to answer. Answer me. Who is she? Chi-Chi shouted again, punctuating her reiterated question with harsh finger jabs to Goku's chest. My name's Caulifla. Caulifla spoke up flatly. And before you ask, no, we're not dating. Then why are you here at Goku's house? Chi-Chi angrily retorted. Because staying with mutant Roshi sounds like hell and I've been nomadic for the longest time. Caulifla answered with an eye roll. Nomadic? Chi-Chi asked, unsure of what that word means. Moving from place to place, never settling down, right? Goku elaborated, hoping he got the answer correct. Anime and manga. I know what the word means. Chi-Chi shouted. This was half true, as she associated the word with migration. Besides, I need help dealing with this curse attached to my backside. Caulifla added, gesturing to her tail, causing Chi-Chi to stifle a gasp. Why you have a tail? Chi-Chi exclaimed. I'm sorry for jumping to conclusions. I didn't know Goku had a sister. I'm not his sister, you a modest imbecile, Caulifla retorted in the most deadpan manner she could muster. I swear, you're almost as dumb as Goku was before mutant Roshi's training. Hey, I'm not dumb, Chi-Chi yelled, followed by an immature pout. Besides, what's so bad about having a tail? If you watched the Tenkaichi Budokai yesterday, you'd know, Goku answered as he wrapped his tail around his waist. I'll tell you, but only if you keep it secret. Fine, Chi-Chi nodded, still pouting. But I also want you to promise to not go out with that girl. Okay, that's just mean. Caulifla interrupted, her face working with annoyance. You've only known Goku for all of a day. I thought you said you weren't dating, Chi-Chi retorted, her expression warping to reflect anger. That's because shut up. Caulifla stammered, turning red in the face, her expression rivaling Chi-Chi's. I knew it, Chi-Chi exclaimed, jabbing a finger at Caulifla. You're the reason Goku broke his promise. Hey, if it wasn't for me, he'd still be clueless thinking marriage was some food. Caulifla retorted, jabbing her own finger at Chi-Chi. You had no right to involve yourself with the man I was supposed to marry. Chi-Chi shouted, her forehead pushing against Caulifla's in rage. At least he took it upon himself to tell you his mistake while you ran off to God knows where to train. Caulifla shouted back, pushing her own forehead into Chi-Chi's. The two girls glared at each other, both viciously growling, wanting to tear each other apart. Goku meanwhile watched this exchange, unsure of what to make of it. Two girls fighting over him was not something he'd ever expect to see. Fighting. Of course. Perhaps you could settle this with a sparring match. Goku suggested, a goofy grin plastered on his face. The two girls looked at Goku with surprise, with Caulifla speaking up first. I'm actually up for that, she agreed, recomposing herself. If I can prove I'm better for you than she is, fine, Chi-Chi agreed, simmering down a notch. We can use the same rules from the Budokai, Goku elaborated as he began to dig his heel into the ground, drawing out a large earthen square around the two. Fall out of the ring, cry uncle, or go unconscious for more than 10 seconds and you lose. No weapons and no killing. Goku looked around for something to substitute as a gong, and looked over at what was left of the boulder Caulifla destroyed. He walked over and readied a ki-infused punch in order to make a loud enough impact. I can't believe I'm fighting over Goku, Caulifla thought, squaring up. At least Chi-Chi will shut up if I win. I'm not gonna lose to some thistle-headed tomboy. Chi-Chi mentally shouted. I saw him first. Goku is mine. Begin. Goku shouted as he punched the megalithic gong, causing it to crumble audibly. The two fighters launched at each other, fists reared back ready to strike, but Caulifla had a wry smirk on her face, for she had a plan. Right as she threw her punch, she unfurled her hand into a palm strike and let out a mighty shout. Ha! Immediately, a massive gust of wind barreled towards Chi-Chi with the force of a cannonball, a ki, and impacted against Chi-Chi's torso, sending her flying back. She tried to stop her momentum by digging her heels and fingers into the ground, and slid to a halt just shy of the boundary Goku had dug up. Anime and manga. What was that? Chi-Chi shouted, visibly frustrated. You didn't even hit me. It's called a ki, Ms. Mohawk, Caulifla answered, the name in reference to the blade atop Chi-Chi's helmet. What was your training regimen anyway? I had my dad build it around Mutant Roshi's style, Chi-Chi answered, taking a stance once more. But I don't remember any kiwi eyes or whatever you called it. Kiwi eyes, Caulifla repeated, snickering to herself, earning an annoyed look from Chi-Chi. Well, since you're so easy to knock around with a ki, I'd guess you're about as strong as Kuririn, and I beat him easily. Oh, that is it. Chi-Chi shouted, having enough of Caulifla's attitude. I'm done playing around. Chi-Chi reached for the blade atop her helmet and pulled it off, ready to throw it directly at Caulifla. Right as she threw the blade, it was immediately stopped by a large red pole that was Nioibo. Caulifla was surprised that mohawk atop her helmet was more than just for show, as well as that she would resort to such a weapon so soon if at all, and Chi-Chi was surprised as well as angry that her attack was stopped like that. I said no weapons, Chi-Chi. Goku angrily shouted, retracting the Nioibo and grabbing the stopped blade. That was a dirty trick trying to do that. But, Chi-Chi stammered, unable to find an answer to retort with. I agree with Goku on this one, Caulifla added. But I'm game to let you try again. I'd like to win this without my opponent being disqualified because she's a dirty little cheater. The armor-clad girl, again, the term, armor, being used loosely, pouted with indignation at this girl's behavior. Caulifla is willing to give her a second chance. What game is she playing at? Fine, Chi-Chi relented. But no more of that ki nonsense or whatever it is. Sure, but can you change into something a little more modest? Caulifla asked. I can't take you seriously while you're wearing that ridiculous bikini. It's my armor. Chi-Chi snapped back. Very impractical armor, Caulifla retorted, pinching the bridge of her nose. She reached for a capsule case she had fastened to her obi and pulled out a number 4 capsule. She gave it a click and tossed it lightly to the ground, only for the capsule to explode with a poi a few seconds after landing. What was once a capsule was now a suitcase. Caulifla walked over to it and opened the case, pulling out her old style of GI, purple with a pink long-sleeved undershirt and matching obi. She took the articles of clothing and tossed them at Chi-Chi. I dunno your size, but these should do. Find somewhere to change. I don't wanna. Chi-Chi pouted. I don't wanna wear the clothes of a girl trying to steal Goku from me. I'm not trying to steal anyone. Caulifla shouted. Then why are you giving me a second chance to fight? Chi-Chi snapped. What kind of game are you playing at? I'm not playing any game, you idiot. Caulifla snapped back. I just want a fair fight. Goku would understand. What would you know what he understood? She's right, Goku interrupted Chi-Chi. I like a fair fight if I can help it. Chi-Chi looked at Goku with surprise, and then Caulifla, and then back to Goku. She then collapsed to her knees and began to cry in a comical tantrum. The man of my life is leaving me for a thistle head. Chi-Chi cried, her eyes shooting tears out like a faucet. First off, rude, Caulifla stated in an annoyed tone. Secondly, we didn't even settle the fight properly yet. Thirdly, and this is just my curiosity talking, why did you immediately want to get married with him in the first place? I don't wanna say, Chi-Chi started to answer but hesitated, her face turning red. It can't be as ridiculous as Goku thinking marriage is food, can it? Caulifla added, waiting for an answer. You don't know that, Chi-Chi shouted. After he found me and brought me using Kintoon, he patted. Anime and manga. Chi-Chi couldn't finish her sentence as she smiled and her face turned red as a tomato, and suddenly Caulifla's face turned a similar shade of red, but her face was warped with disgust and she palmed her face with an audible smack. Oh, you have got to be kidding me. Yeah, it's embarrassing when I think back to it, Goku added, nervously chuckling with a blush and scratching the back of his head. I'm at a loss for words right now, Caulifla slowly stated, her face still obscured by her hand. So let me get this straight. All this started because Son Goku, the absolute simpleton that he was at the time, who had been living isolated in the forests of Mount Paozu for his entire childhood, patted your crotch to simply check if you were a boy or girl. Well, it sounds dumb the way you say it. Chi-Chi retorted, her blush subsiding but not completely. It's exactly the way I said it. Caulifla shouted with exasperation, earning a small nod from Goku. Sorry for doing that by the way, Goku nervously apologized to Chi-Chi. The mountain princess was left without words for a good half-minute until she spoke up again. I guess I should apologize as well, Chi-Chi said looking down, earning a small flinch of surprise from Goku. I'm sorry for assuming so much. It's alright, Goku waved off with a grin. Can I get you anything while you're here? No, that's fine, Chi-Chi waved off, her tone sullen, yet disturbingly stern. I'm gonna head back home. Bye. Chi-Chi waved as she got back to her jeep, keeping her face hidden from view of the two monkey children. Goku was relieved that this ordeal was resolved, but Caulifla was uneasy, for she heard something Chi-Chi had muttered under her breath, something Goku had not heard. This isn't over, you thistle head. The jeep rolled off into the forest, leaving the two alone once more. Goku was as carefree as he had always been, while Caulifla was still tense. The former noticed this and walked over. You okay? Goku asked. Yeah, Caulifla answered flatly. Just thinking is all. Gizzard Wastelands, dusk, 1 month later. Goku and Caulifla stood in the middle of a vast expanse of rocky desert, several rocks and cliffs making the terrain highly uneven and crowded. No wildlife could be seen for miles, and the only flora that can be accounted for were a few tough desert shrubs sprinkled across the arid and cooling mesas, clinging to wherever moisture could be found, the perfect place to tame the Uzaru safely. Goku was still wearing his orange GI, but with an added backpack and white piece of cloth hanging from his obi. Caulifla was wearing a simple white shirt and pants. Goku suggested they wear expendable clothing given the nature of the transformation, and Goku would hold onto her GI in his backpack until the transformation had been undone. Since Goku had transformed last, Caulifla was to go next. Are you sure about this, Goku? Caulifla asked, now sporting a pair of sunglasses on her face. I've already looked at the moon, and the sunglasses worked, Goku answered, also wearing a pair of sunglasses. Besides, there's a lot of cliffs I can use for cover to get to your tail if you can't regain yourself. Okay, Caulifla sighed. Just, please be careful, alright? Goku gave a thumbs up and leapt away from the small mesa they were standing on. Caulifla took another deep sigh and looked down, closing her eyes. She removed her sunglasses and looked up at the sky. She opened her eyes slowly, and saw the full moon. Immediately, her eyes shot open and her mind went blank. Her normally black irises and pupils turned an eerie shade of red and her breath shifted to quick, rhythmic inhales matching a similarly rhythmic movement her body was convulsing in. Her heartbeat grew louder and the tempo of her spasms increased along with it. In time, her muscle mass began to expand and hair grew all over her body, destroying the cheap clothing covering her body. Her features continued to mutate into more primal simian qualities until she stood tall enough to crumble the small mesa she stood upon. Before the dust could clear, Caulifla let out a massive roar that could be heard for miles, and deafen any creature with sensitive enough hearing. Anime and manga. Caulifla. Goku called out from his hiding spot, seeing if his voice could get through to the now rampaging Uzaru. There seemed to be no effect. Instead, the monster that is Caulifla proceeded to march towards the sound of the call, prompting Goku to move from his hiding spot to another. Okay. So far, nothing, Goku thought. Let's give it one, maybe two more tries and then I'll get her tail. Caulifla. Goku shouted again, this time with more volume and a short distance from where Caulifla had pulverized Goku's last hiding spot. Caulifla's primal tantrum wavered, but only by a small margin. The giant monkey proceeded to stomp her way towards Goku's new hiding spot, starting the cycle over again. She's slowing down a bit, Goku noted mentally. One more try and then it's tail time. Caulifla. Goku shouted a third time, and it seemed that this time it registered in Caulifla's mind. A shocked expression dawned on the monster girl's face and her rampage slowed even further. Her tail was swinging slowly, slow enough for Goku to grab onto it with ease. The boy did not hesitate to leap at this opportunity, swiftly ducking behind cliffs to avoid Caulifla's red gaze. By the time he reached her tail, he jumped up and latched onto the appendage, squeezing it tightly in a vice. Immediately Caulifla's rampage was brought to a halt and her roars were replaced with gargles mixed in with broken and slurred words. My tail, the monster girl muttered as Goku squeezed down on the appendage in question. If you're in there, say my name. Goku shouted, keeping the pressure on his grip. Go, Ku, Caulifla strained out. Goku then squeezed down onto her tail with all the force he could muster, causing her to recede back to normal. Close your eyes and look down. Goku called out as Caulifla continued to shrink back. The monster struggled but complied until she fell forward and was out cold. Goku quickly opened up his backpack and tarped Caulifla's bare frame with a blanket. Once covered, he walked over and pulled the white cloth from his obi and tied it around the girl's eyes. He then pulled out her stored GI along with an extra pair of sunglasses and laid it out next to her, neatly folded. Goku turned away and sat down with a sigh, waiting for Caulifla to wake up. Minutes turned to hours until Caulifla stirred once again. Woo! Where? Caulifla muttered in a dazed state. You transformed, Goku answered slowly and calmly. I'm okay, and so are you. I may have bumped my shin against a boulder you threw around, but otherwise I'm fine. Did you see anything? I did, Caulifla hesitated to answer. I heard your voice. It was muffled but it was there. Everything was so fuzzy. How many times did you call me? 3 times, Goku answered, still not looking back for Caulifla's decency. On the 3rd time, your rampage slowed down enough for me to grab your tail. Sounds like progress, Caulifla noted with a smile, but then her expression shifted. Do you think I could try again? Try again, Goku repeated, visibly surprised that Caulifla would want to try again after all that. Sure, we still have moonlight. I'll pack your things back up. Goku proceeded to gather Caulifla's laid out GI, sunglasses and blanket, all while averting his eyes, and packed them away in his backpack. He took the blindfold off Caulifla and leapt away once more, allowing the cycle to repeat. Unbeknownst to both monkey children, a third person was watching from a very far distance with a telescope. It was Chi-Chi, and she was visibly furious, a blush tinting her face. She was clad in much more modest clothing this time, a basic green GI with a blue obi, and she snarled with fury. Caulifla. Chi-Chi growled, crushing the telescope in her hand. The glass did not cut her skin, for she had toughened up with her offshoot turtle school training, but it did significantly bruise her hand regardless. I will get back at you for stealing Son Goku from me. Gizzard Wastelands, 3 months later. The silence that presided in this expanse of rocky desert had been disturbed by a loud monstrous roar and the quaking of massive footsteps. Goku had become an Uzaru once again, but his initial rampage was more tame in comparison to the one witnessed during the Tenkaichi Budokai. Hidden from the monster's view, Caulifla was calling out to Goku in an effort to bring Goku's mind back and in control. Goku. The Uzaru's rampage slowed to a crawl as Caulifla maneuvered in to grab his tail, as per their regimen dictated. Before she jumped up to grab it, however, Goku gestured his massive hand to his backside and began to speak. His speech was broken and slurred, but present. Wait. Goku strained out, stopping his rampage completely and holding his massive head. I'm back. Are you sure about that? Caulifla yelled, ducking away once again in the event Goku loses himself again. Yeah, Goku growled, followed by a light chuckle. Steel, fuzzy, but can see. What's your favorite type of pizza? Caulifla shouted out, testing to make sure Goku really was back in control. Hawaiian, Goku answered, his face working more with annoyance than pain. Don't make me hungry, please. Also, don't shout. Hearing's really good like this. Sorry, Caulifla apologized, lowering her volume. Do you want to keep going, or should I change you back? Lemme try, Goku growled as he reached for his tail and began to squeeze. The beast yelped and immediately his knees buckled with a groan. The impact sent a large tremor through the earth to be felt for half a kilometer around. Goku's mass began to recede and a surprised Caulifla jumped over to the shrinking boy, ready to assist should his grip lapse. Sure enough, Goku's grip slackened halfway through and his mass began to swell back up slowly. Little help, Goku asked sheepishly with a chuckle. On it, Caulifla agreed, latching onto Goku's tail and squeezing it down. Eventually Goku was back to normal, but not unconscious. He was panting heavily and had his eyes closed, reaching out behind him gesturing for something to be handed to him. Oh, right. Caulifla handed Goku a pair of sunglasses as well as his GI. The boy got dressed and sat down, trying to stabilize his breath. Hoo boy, Goku sighed with exasperation and a massive grin. I think that's a good milestone, don't you think? I didn't think it was possible. Caulifla added, sporting an even more giddy grin than Goku. You actually managed to gain some control. I think this calls for celebration. How about we get back to my house first? Goku suggested with a stifled yawn. I'm kinda beat after that. Sure. Caulifla agreed, now feeling the sleepies catch up to her as well. Kintoan. The contrail of Kintoan streaked across the moonlit sky, and the duo hopped aboard, ready to catch some well-earned shut-eye. Goku's house. The next morning. Goku stirred with a loud yawn, satisfied with his night's sleep as light beamed into his hut. He stood up from his bed and got dressed as well as dealt with his usual wake-up routines, one of which was checking the dragon radar for any indication that the Dragon Balls were active. Naturally, nothing has shown up on the device over the past 4 months since he borrowed it from Bulma, and has only recently taken to checking it on a daily basis. Goku gave the device a click to see if anything would show up in the immediate area. Nothing. He adjusted the dial to search farther, until a distinct pinging emitted from the device, and a small yellow dot was blinking to the far right side of the screen, indicating it was somewhere to the east. Immediately Goku's face lit up and he raced outside. Caulifla. Goku shouted with glee. They're active again. The Dragon Balls are active again. Caulifla drowsily emerged from her dwelling, which was a small mobile capsule home she had purchased with a portion of her Zenny winnings, and her face lit up when Goku's words registered past her eardrums. Really? Caulifla asked with wondrous disbelief. Yeah, take a look. Goku giddily replied, holding the device's screen forward for Caulifla to see. Sure enough, there was a distinct pinging dot on the screen to the far right. So, how far is it? Caulifla asked. I don't see. Oh wait, there's the scale. So, roughly 100 kilometers that way. Looks like it, Goku agreed, looking at Caulifla point eastward. Let's have breakfast and head off. Sounds good to me, Caulifla nodded. I wonder what these Dragon Balls look like up close. You're gonna find out soon enough. Goku replied with a grin. The two prepped breakfast from a fresh tiger carcass and ate their fill. Once they packed their capsules for the journey ahead, Goku summoned Kintoan and the two were off. Little could they know that they were in for more than a simple scavenger hunt. Wilderness, unknown campsite. A tall rugged man and shorter anthropomorphic dog man stepped out of a capsule house and let out a yawn. They both looked visibly exhausted and coated in a small amount of dirt. I can't believe we got conscripted into this bull, the taller man groaned. You're telling me, the dog man agreed, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. That was the first time I've slept in days. You'll be sleeping for much longer if you don't get to it, a stern voice called to the duo, causing them to seize up with fear. A tall muscular man in denim jeans and a large open trench coat walked out of his own capsule house, head topped off with scraggly red hair. Oh, mornin' Colonel Silver. The taller man saluted, now sweating bullets. Piss off with the pleasantries and get to work. The man known as Colonel Silver shouted. It's already 8 a.m., start searching. Commander Red's patience is thin enough as it is and General White's company has already secured their find. Delay any longer and all of our heads are gonna be on pikes. Is that understood? Why yes sir. The dog man saluted with cowardice. The two workers hopped into a nearby truck and began driving off. The two grumbled about their boss and the organization they had been forced into. This sucks. The rugged man and dog man hopped out of their truck and began searching once again. The hell are we looking for anyway? The taller man shouted. Some jewel or whatever. That's how the colonel described it, the dog man answered. But how are we supposed to find this jewel? Their radar system sucks. Their bickering was cut off when an odd whirring noise caught their attention. They looked up and saw a little yellow cloud descend to their location, carrying two children with tails. Yo! Goku called out as he zoomed by the two. Okay, it should be around here. Who the hell are you pipsqueaks? The taller man shouted, readying his sidearm. Just looking around, Caulifla answered nonchalantly. No need to get violent. I disagree, little lady, the shorter wolf man retorted. You twerps are interrupting official business. So get lost or get popped. Found it. Goku shouted as he held up the 6-star Dragon Ball. Oh wait. 1, 2, this is Liu Shinshu. Oh well. That kid found a Dragon Ball. The scraggly duo cried out in unison. You know about the Dragon Balls? Goku asked, surprised and curious. Hell yeah we do. The taller man stated pointing his gun at Goku. Now hand it over, and you won't have to be buzzard food. Nope. Goku rejected, sticking out his tongue. This angered the man and he tried to grab the ball, only for the ball to be knocked out of Goku's hands and the monkey boy kicked the man into the air, landing him in a thorny shrub several meters away. You gonna try something too? Goku asked the dog man. You little shit. The dog man cursed as he pulled out his own pistol and began firing, only for Goku to dodge every bullet with ease. Boo! Caulifla tapped the dog man's shoulder, causing him to yelp and jump up. Caulifla jumped up after him and performed a double axe handle to the dog man's gut, sending him down to earth and knocking him unconscious. I've heard of all bark and no bite, but this is ridiculous. Goku snickered at Caulifla's joke and went to pick up the 6-star Dragon Ball that was knocked out of his hands. Definitely 6 stars, Goku confirmed. Might as well hold onto it just in case. You wanna see it, Caulifla? Caulifla walked over to inspect the orb, and was immediately hypnotized with its beauty. A shiny glass-like sphere of clear amber with 6 red-pointed stars floating inside. No matter how you turned it, the stars stayed in the same spot and orientation. It almost seemed to glow on its own as if by magic. It's so pretty, Caulifla muttered as her eyes sparkled in marvel at the mystical sphere. And there are 7 in all, Goku added. If you think these are amazing, you should see Shenlong when all of them are gathered. I kinda want to gather them all just for that now, Caulifla stated, tearing her eyes away from the jewel. Question is, what would we wish for? Maybe we'll come up with one as we go. Goku suggested. We don't have to summon Shenlong immediately after we find them. I thought you just wanted to find Sushinshu. Caulifla questioned. I did, Goku answered. But I figured maybe I could catch it right before they scatter again. Oh, Caulifla nodded. Well, we won't find them by standing around now, will we? Nope. Goku agreed as he hopped aboard Kintoan and Caulifla quickly followed. As the cloud flew off, the taller man struggled to pull out a radio. See Colonel Silver. Ack. The taller man strained as he pulled himself out of the thorny bush. We got a problem. What? The colonel shouted at his radio. He was presently sitting inside his capsule home. They what? Immediately the red-headed man picked up a guided rocket launcher and ran outside to look for the interlopers. There. Silver shouted as he took aim, locking onto the flying cloud and firing. Hey Goku, do you hear some? Caulifla spoke up until a loud explosion collided with them and knocked the two off their perch. The cloud was nowhere to be seen, but the 2 children that were riding it fell unscathed. The 2 landed neatly, looking none the worse for wear, but were both irritated. Hey, what's the big idea? You blew up Kintoan, you jerk. Goku shouted, visibly angry. Lucky dodge, you little twerps, Silver commented as he tossed the rocket launcher aside. Hand over that Dragon Ball and Colonel Silver, yours truly, won't send you along with your little cloud. Goku, I think this guy means business, Caulifla noted, squaring up and then turning to Silver. Why are you looking for the Dragon Balls in the first place? That's up to the jurisdiction of the Red Ribbon Army, Squirt, Silver answered, dropping his trench coat and taking a boxer's stance. I also see you have a radar that's more accurate than our own. Hand it and the Dragon Ball over if you want to live. I won't ask again. After what you did to Kintoan? I don't think so, Goku retorted while squaring up as well. Fine, Silver said flatly, and with a blur appeared right behind the 2 holding the bag that held the Dragon Radar and Dragon Ball. Too easy. Now to finish you. Before Silver could finish his sentence, the bag vanished from his hands. He looked around to see where it went and it was back in Goku's possession. Hands off, the boy shouted. I'm not letting you take these after what you did. I'll take it by force then. Silver shouted, taking his boxer's stance once again. And either of us will knock you down with that weak stance of yours, Glass Joe, Caulifla jeered with a grin. Hey, I'm a boxing champion, Silver argued, his face twinging red. I'm not a Glass Joe. My stance is a dam to a river. Wanna prove him wrong, Goku? Caulifla asked her friend, taking the bag from his arms. Sure, Goku agreed, taking his own, more fortified stance. Immediately the boy launched himself, driving his left foot into the colonel's gut, causing him to gasp and buckle over. See, you were wide open. Too easy to kick you in the stomach, and don't get me started on how unguarded you were below the belt. You little ack. Silver strained with a cough. Goku, what should we do? Caulifla asked. Glass Joe over here blew up Kintoon and the next ball is several hundred kilometers away due north. Maybe this guy has a capsule case we can use. Goku suggested with a grin. It's only fair since he blew up Kintoon with a rocket launcher. Hey, those capsules are red ribbon proper, Colonel Silver shouted from his spot, only for Caulifla to backhand the man across the face and into a nearby shrub. I've heard about this red ribbon organization, Caulifla muttered. Supposedly they're an upstart regime trying to take over the world. Bunch of greedy jackasses if you ask me. Found it. Goku called, emerging from the capsule home with the respective case in hand. Question is, which capsule is which? Try 'em and find out. Caulifla suggested with a shrug. Goku shrugged and pulled out a number 5 capsule, clicked it and tossed it. What emerged from the poi was not what either child was expecting. Emerging from the capsule was a short, stocky robot with 2 antennae, long, spindly fingers, and feet that were little more than plates connected to motorized ankles. Greetings, the robot spoke in a synthetic tone. Red Ribbon Service Robot Model Number 5 at your service. State your command. Cool. A robot. Caulifla gaped at the little metal man in amazement. Do you know of any way to head in that direction really fast? Goku asked the automaton. Of course, the robot flatly answered. In that capsule case you are carrying should be a capsule labeled number 3. That will provide you with transportation. Cool. Goku nodded as he clicked the number 3 capsule per the robot's suggestion. Out of the poi came a large jet glider. Cool plane, but I don't know how to fly a plane. Caulifla. Nope. Caulifla shrugged. I am certified to fly this aircraft to your requested destination, the robot spoke up. Please keep your hands and feet inside the vehicle and relay your requested destination. Thank you. Goku cheered as he and Caulifla boarded the plane. Goku pulled out the dragon radar to check where the next Dragon Ball was located. Let's see, 1,000 kilometers north. We can go on foot after that. As you wish, the robot complied, boarding the pilot's seat of the plane and bringing its engines to life. Based on the optimal cruising speed of this aircraft and time compensation to find a suitable landing zone, your travel time is approximately 3 hours and 47 minutes. Kintoon could get us there in a tenth of the time. Goku frowned, missing his beloved Cloud. Well, let's get going. What is Kintoon? The robot asked while maintaining course. At least we can quiz our robot buddy here during the trip, Caulifla noted. Red Ribbon Headquarters, Commander Red's office. Sat in the office was a short, very disgruntled man with an eye patch over his right eye. His hair matched his name and was chomping on what looked like a very expensive cigar. Stood next to him was a taller bald man with dark skin standing at attention to his much shorter and far more irate superior. I got my best squad scouring for the Dragon Balls and have nothing to show for it. Commander Red growled. Where in the hell are the Dragon Balls? Patience, sir. Staff Officer Black consoled his commander. Our radars are not precise, but we'll have the Dragon Balls in due time. You better be right. Red glared at his subordinate. Sirs. A large tiger man shouted as he entered the room after knocking. Pardon the interruption, but you're needed in the CIC. There's a disturbance regarding the Dragon Ball Colonel Silver is hunting for. It's moving. Red saw the blip on the large screen moving due north, away from Colonel Silver's location. Did that oaf find it? That's the thing, sir, the tiger man from before responded. The Dragon Ball is heading towards General White's base, and Colonel Silver has not reported any discoveries yet. Get Silver on the radio. Commander Red ordered. The short man sat in his designated chair and waited with impatience as the tiger man pulled up a phone to contact the delinquent colonel. Seconds passed until it became minutes. Any response? Staff Officer Black asked. None yet, sir, the tiger man answered. Wait, we have contact. Give me that. Red snapped as he grabbed the corded phone from his anthropomorphic subordinate. Silver. Report. Okay. Wait, someone's got a better radar. They what? And they survived a direct RPG round. Who were your assailants? 2 children. You incompetent dumbass. You are sentenced to death. Commander Red slammed the phone onto its cradle, and was visibly fuming. Red walked back to his desk of the command center and rubbed his temples. Quite mysterious, sir, Officer Black commented. What's mysterious is how Silver managed to get to the rank of colonel. Red snapped. Contact General White. Tell him to kill those 2 brats and take back the Dragon Ball they've pilfered. Yes, sir. Officer Black nodded. And stop standing so close to me. Commander Red snapped again. You make me look like a midget in comparison. Sorry, sir. The taller subordinate apologized, now going over to the same phone Commander Red slammed in order to contact General White. Unknown location, 50 kilometers from the Dragon Ball. Oh, okay. It's definitely getting colder. Caulifla chattered between her teeth. IIW wish I be brought ACC coat. I've never seen snow BB before. Goku stuttered as he shivered, inspecting the dragon radar in his hands. Atmospheric temperatures are known to decrease in northern latitudes, the robot commented, its voice unfazed by the cold. Well, were C close enough TT to land, Goku shivered, icicles forming in his hair. He noticed the robot was not changing course, and in fact was starting to dip the plane downwards. Why you okay KK? My joints are frozen due to a buildup of surface ice, the automaton emotionlessly clarified. I am unable to correct our course. Oh see crap. Caulifla shouted in between shivers. Be brace for impact. Goku and Caulifla screamed as they hugged each other, half out of fear and half out of an effort to stay warm, as the plane made a swift descent into the snow-covered ground below. The plane crashed with an audible boom, kicking up several tons of settled snow into the air. The robot was broken and in pieces while Goku and Caulifla landed side by side, splayed out in the snow. IG guess W were GG gonna BBP popsicles, EH. Caulifla chuckled in between shivers before she faded from consciousness. Goku could barely find the energy to speak. His vision began to blur, but he saw what looked like a little girl with red hair and a heavy coat approach him, and was accompanied by a much taller woman with blue hair and a similar coat. This was the last thing on his mind before Goku was out cold. Literally. Mom. He's waking up. Goku looked around and saw he was in a cozy home with a crackling fireplace. He still felt cold but was warming up thanks to a thick blanket wrapped around him insulating the warmth from the fire. In the distance he saw an older woman in the kitchen bring over 2 mugs which had visible steam coming off them, and walking over to him was the red-headed girl he saw before he blacked out. Woo! Where am I? Goku muttered, taking in his surroundings. You're in Jingle Village, the girl answered cheerfully. We saw you and your friend in the snow and brought you back here. My name's Suno. You brought us here? Goku asked. Suno answered with a smile. You guys are lucky we showed up when we did. Goku looked over to his left to see Caulifla unconscious, but alive. She was bundled up in a similar blanket and began to stir as well. The older woman walked over with the 2 mugs and handed one to the insulated boy. Here, the woman offered gingerly. This'll help you warm up. Thank you. My name's Son Goku, by the way. Goku accepted, blowing on the hot mug of cocoa to cool it before drinking. Suno watched the boy intently, which confused him. Is there something on my face? No, just curious, Suno answered with a smile. Is it the tail? Goku asked, wondering if that's where Suno's curiosity was going to. Well, before Suno could answer, Caulifla came to her senses and looked around in the same manner Goku did when he woke up. She looked to her right and saw Goku drinking from a hot mug, and then she began to sniff around. Do I smell hot cocoa? Of course, dear, Suno's mother walked over to the now awake Caulifla handing over a mug. You two were foolish to come this far north so unprepared. Thank you. Caulifla accepted the mug of hot cocoa. To be fair, we didn't know how far north we were gonna end up. Who's the girl staring at Goku? That's my daughter Suno, the woman answered. She and a friend saw you two in the snow and brought you in. By the way, what are you two doing all the way out here? Well, Caulifla and I were searching for the Dragon Balls before our plane crashed in the snow, Goku answered, causing the girl and her mother to flinch back. Dragon Balls? The woman asked with trepidation, hugging her red-headed daughter. Are you with the Red Ribbon Army? They're not with those goons, an abrasive and very familiar voice called out from the front door. I should know. I've met them before. Turning to look at the front door, the duo saw a very familiar face. Through the door came a woman with long blonde curly hair tied up in a red bow. Her features were stern, and her eyes were a shade of green. She was clad in a heavy brown coat riddled with shallow holes, thick black gloves and matching combat boots. Over her shoulder was a belt-attached custom M1 Garand rifle. Lunch. The two thawed children called out in unison. The one and only. Lunch confirmed with a grin. I'm surprised you squirts recognized me, what with the get-up and all. A scary green-eyed blonde with a gun is hard to forget, Caulifla playfully jeered, earning an annoyed sneer from said scary green-eyed blonde with a gun. I thought you went back to Mutant Roshi's island. I did, Lunch answered. But after the old geezer came back after your tournament I wanted to take up a similar training regimen you guys did. Thought it might come in handy. Wasn't free though, and I had to bring out Blue just to get the payment sorted. Blue? Goku repeated with confusion. The seconds ticked by until it registered. Oh right, we got your halves aware of each other. Yeah, now I know what boring crap goes on when Blue's out, and vice versa, Lunch added with an eye roll. The old prune asked for help dealing with his perv problem. Probably took inspiration from Jackie Chun's defeat, Caulifla cheekily suggested, winking at Goku who winked back. Literally what the old coot said, Lunch confirmed. You do not want to know what he did to Blue during that ordeal. We'll take your word for it, Caulifla agreed, feeling a shudder run through her body, and not from the cold. I'm willing to guess he still needs more training, Goku added, earning a grave nod from Lunch. Also, check this out, Lunch called out. She held her hands in front of her and closed her eyes. Slowly, a tiny sphere of light began to build. Eventually it gained enough mass and began to spin with a hum. Everyone present, Suno and her mother especially, were amazed at this. Lunch opened her eyes with a smirk. Key control. No way. Goku and Caulifla gasped. It's like a star. Suno muttered with wonder. The sphere faded and Lunch's knees buckled and she was left gasping for air, but she was chuckling in spite of herself. Still get super winded after I do that, the blonde stated. But that old raisin's training really works. Blue can pull it off a lot easier though. That's cool and all, but what are you doing all the way out here? Caulifla asked, now asking the real questions. Blue was getting all pissy about my behavior, but her goody two-shoes attitude was so boring. So we came to a compromise, Lunch elaborated, emphasizing the word behavior with air quotes. I get to cut loose with vigilante work and she can deal with more mundane jobs. I heard the Red Ribbon Army set up shop here, so I thought I might lend a hand and see some action in the process. Lunch grin then fell to an annoyed frown. But those bastards are crack shots, Lunch groaned, gesturing to several graze marks and bullet holes in her coat. And there are several of them, along with this big guy who took a full belt of 50 calories shells without flinching. Gotta get me whatever vest that jackass was wearing. Good thing you had Mutant Roshi's training to toughen you up a bit, Goku commented, seeing the bullet holes in Lunch's jacket. Shoulda done it sooner. It's like my whole body's made of Kevlar now. Lunch agreed, inspecting the bruises where the bullets hit. The blonde's attention turned back to the duo now that she remembered something. Hey, not to bug, but any reason you guys were flying a red ribbon plane? We had a run-in with some guy named Glass Joe who was Colonel Silver, Goku corrected as Caulifla was explaining. Does it matter? That jerk blew up Kintoan. Caulifla snapped. Anyways, he was looking for the Dragon Balls, but we dealt with him no problem. Since we had no transport thanks to Colonel Silver, we borrowed the guy's capsule case and found a plane and a robot who could fly it. The robot froze over as we showed up in this region, and that led to you guys finding us. Goku finished the story along with his mug of hot cocoa. But why go through the trouble of searching for these Dragon Balls? Suno's mother spoke up. One of them is a memento of Goku's, Caulifla answered. At the same time, I'm just curious to see all 7 together. This is one of them, Goku stated, pulling out Liushinshu, earning a marveled stare from Suno, her mother, and Lunch. There are 7 in total, and when you gather them all, you can summon the dragon god Shenlong to grant any wish. Of course, Suno's mother shouted, worry laced in her voice. The Red Ribbon Army must be planning to use them to take over the world. Sounds like Pilaf all over again, Goku commented. Just not as goofy. If you want my opinion, they're gathering them balls probably so their leader Commander Red can be taller, Lunch commented as she inspected her ammo magazines, earning a collective bemused stare at her. What? The guy's a walking talking Napoleon complex. They also took my papa and the village mayor, Suno sullenly added. They said they needed more hands to search for the Dragon Balls, and threatened to kill anyone who said no. We can help take these guys down, Caulifla offered with a smile. I was thinking the same thing, Goku agreed with a goofy grin. If these guys are that mean, we might as well take him down a few pegs. Are you serious? Suno cried out with surprise. They're grown-ups with weapons. There's no way you could fight them, even with Miss Lunch's help. You'd be surprised, kid. Those 2 are tougher than you realize, Lunch added with a grin. Suno was still unsure about Lunch's words, but smiled in response to her encouragement. The conversation was interrupted by a loud thumping on the front door. Lunch immediately shoved an ammo clip into her rifle and it into place. Damn it. They found us. Forgot to dust our tracks. You two, hide. Goku and Caulifla, get up and get ready. Open up. An angry muffled voice shouted from behind the door. We know you have fugitives and a Dragon Ball in there. Surrender them to the Red Ribbon Army or else. Why don't you come on in and take him, you swat mocking jackasses? Lunch defiantly shouted back. Is that Lunch? Oh, that's it. Another man shouted. The door was kicked open and 2 coated soldiers marched in, rifles pointed forward. Where are the fugitives, you crazed maverick? Lunch stood in the center of the room, her rifle stood at her side as she wore a wide grin. She pointed to the ceiling, not breaking eye contact. The 2 red ribbon soldiers looked up with confusion and immediately Goku and Caulifla landed down on top of them and delivered a swift series of punches to their respective targets, the last strikes sending them flying outside and into the snow. Suno emerged from her hiding spot with a look of mixed amazement and confusion. How did you do that? Suno questioned, mouth agape. I couldn't see what just happened. 3 punches to the sternum and a final kick to send my guy flying, Caulifla elaborated. I think Goku added a kick or 2 for his. Yep. 3 punches and 2 kicks, Goku confirmed. See, what did I tell ya? Lunch stated with a grin. I could have taken those goons myself, but I'm still winded after that key control demo, plus I might have made a mess of your house even if I wasn't. Whoa. Suno gasped with amazement that they could do such things and with such ease. If it's not too much to ask, could we borrow a couple of coats? Caulifla asked, feeling the cold enter the house before closing the door. We nearly froze to death when we first got here, and we won't be of much help if you have to thaw us every 10 minutes. Sure. Suno happily agreed. You can borrow some of my coats. Suno searched her wardrobe for some heavy coats and brought them to her guests. They put them on, wrapping their tails before buttoning down, and put on their respective gloves, boots, and hats. Thanks. Goku cheered. Now I feel nice and toasty. Suno, meanwhile, was still surprised that these two had tails. She wanted to ask, but didn't know if it was rude or not to mention now was not the time for such trivial questions. Caulifla took notice of Suno's stare. It's all right to ask about the tails, she said with a smile. It's a curse, but also a blessing if you know how to live with it. Oh, okay. Suno nodded, confused even more by Caulifla's words. You squirts ready to go? Lunch called out, doing one last ammo check. Yeah, Goku confirmed with a double fist pump. You wanna try sneaking in, or go for a frontal assault? Lunch suggested. The blonde preferred the former option, but enjoys sneaking around from time to time. Frontal assault, Caulifla picked. We can catch the gunfire while you take out the gunners with that rifle of yours. Catch gunfire? Suno thought with even further amazement. No one could catch bullets in mid-air. Could they? Where's their base? Goku asked. It's a big place called Muscle Tower, Lunch answered. Place is lined with sentries and gun emplacements. Front gate won't budge for us, so we'll have to get up to one of the walls. Seems easy enough, Goku noted, pulling out his Nyoibo. That's that magic stick the geezer mentioned before, yeah? Lunch questioned, seeing the meager red pole. By the way, hold on to these for me. Lunch handed Goku and Caulifla each a bird's feather. They looked at the quills with confusion and curiosity, and then Caulifla asked. Are these in case you sneeze and blue comes out? No, they're for writing your next magnum opus. Of course they're for if I sneeze. Lunch snapped with sarcasm, causing the two to flinch. All right, let's go. Goku called as he ran towards the door. Right behind you, Caulifla called out. You be careful out there. Suno and her mother called out as they charged for the Red Ribbon outpost, which was a giant red obelisk in the distance. They're a strange bunch. It'll be a shame when they get killed, Suno's mother gravely commented. I don't think so, Mom, Suno retorted, seeing the trio charge off into the distance. I think they might win. Outside Muscle Tower, Goku and Caulifla charged at the Crimson Fortress with reckless abandon, with Lunch running not far behind, aiming her rifle with a newly attached scope, looking to get a lock on any kneecaps in range. Blue was adverse to killing, so Blonde elected to incapacitate them at worst. The monkey duo in front drew the tower's fire and deflected or caught any bullets that were coming their way. When the sentries on the ground and along the wall stopped to reload, Goku extended his Nyoibo and smacked several ground-level guards while Caulifla took to flicking some caught bullets back to their senders, not piercing them, but definitely bruising them and knocking them unconscious. Lunch from her distance took out the upper-level guards with ease, making pinpoint shots at the guards and the mounted guns along the ramparts, disabling them. When all the Red Ribbon guards were hugging their knees in pain, the trio took a second to catch their breath. More so Lunch, as she lacked the endurance Goku and Caulifla possessed. I really ought to get back on Roshi's regiment after this, Lunch gasped. Can I get a lift up? Sure thing, Goku agreed, jumping up onto the lower rampart of the tower. He then held his Nyoibo over the edge and extended it down to allow Lunch to climb up. Here you go. Thanks, kid, Lunch said as she climbed up. The climb was short since Goku retracted the pull to save Lunch the trouble. I gotta get me one of those. I'll let you know if we find one, Caulifla suggested, jumping up on her own power. She looked around to see all the groaning soldiers hugging their injured knees. I kinda feel bad for these guys. They're just following orders. All, unscrew your heads, and shit down your necks. One of the downed soldiers threatened, grabbing his sidearm and aiming it at Caulifla, which she promptly batted away. Okay. I take it back, Caulifla backpedaled. So, if silver was anything to go by, there should be a. Ha ha ha. Welcome to the legendary Muscle Tower. The loudspeaker near the door blared out. My name is General White. Make yourselves at home. Or try to, anyways. Welcoming committee. Caulifla finished her interrupted sentence with a deadpan tone. Where's the people from Jingle Village you kidnapped? Goku demanded towards the loudspeaker. We're here to get them out. Well, by all means, get them out. General White mockingly invited. If you can get to the top floor of my fortress, that is. This guy's a serious ass, Lunch groaned, ing a shotgun and aiming it at the loudspeaker. Yo, General Snowball. Got anything else important to say before I do some property damage? Wah. No one calls me Snowball except my wife. The general fumed over the loudspeaker. I'm guessing because you're an absolute disappointment in bed. Lunch retorted with a smirk. Why you Lee? Boom. General White's loudspeaker was destroyed by Lunch's shotgun, which she pumped to discard the now empty casing. Lunch turned to her two friends, who looked visibly confused, and sighed. I'll explain that quip I made when you're older, Lunch explained. Just wanted to rile up the oaf in charge here. Okay. Goku nodded. Well, there's the door. Wanna bet there's a bunch of guys right inside? You guys can take 'em, Lunch suggested. Still trying to catch my breath. Plus there's one guy I've been meaning to take down. Alright, Caulifla agreed, Goku nodding along. The trio opened the door to the inside of the tower and were greeted with the mess hall. Several soldiers were lounging about, inspecting their weapons, both ranged and up close. They looked dangerous to the average person, but the trio that walked in was beyond average. All the soldiers looked up to see the intruders enter their base. Well, a bulky man with a knife stood up. If it isn't the sneezing maverick. Here to kiss and make up with the boss. Piss off, you overgrown beer keg, Lunch spat. Couldn't stand working with you guys 3 years ago. You worked with the Red Ribbon Army before. Goku and Caulifla gasped at their friend. Like I said, got fed up with these idiots, Lunch reiterated. Hey boss. A tall man with denim jeans called up to the ceiling. You don't mind if we dust these runts, do ya? Don't let me stop you. General White laughed over a different loudspeaker. Just clean up the mess after you're done. Lunch looked to her smaller friends, who took their own stances. You guys ready? Ha, that's rich. Another man with a submachine gun jeered. Letting these two pipsqueaks do the fighting for her. You trying to be cute? Bitch. Lunch smirked. I'm adorable. Immediately Goku and Caulifla vanished from sight, causing the mess hall soldiers to look around confused. Goku reappeared in front of the knife-wielding soldier and batted the weapon out of the man's hand before kicking him into the wall, knocking him out cold. Caulifla reappeared in front of the man with the submachine gun and stood in place. The man grinned and opened fire, but Caulifla's frame began to warp and blur. The gunner was befuddled as Caulifla smirked before vanishing again, only to reappear and launch a small ki into the man's back, sending him on top of the guy Goku knocked out earlier. The rest of the soldiers were dispatched with ease while Lunch walked over to the kitchen to grab a slice of pizza and a beer. Much to her disdain, the pizza was that cheap brand that's commonly sold at convenience stores, and the beer was weak. Walking out of the kitchen, Goku and Caulifla sat atop a pile of unconscious soldiers, looking just as spry as when they began. They had taken off their coats, now that they were in an insulated space, and tucked them away in a storage capsule they had on hand. So, how's the food here? Goku asked, noticing the pizza slice in Lunch's hand. Cheap and lacking substance, Lunch answered before turning to the loudspeaker General White's voice came from. Just like the overweight muffin top chilling in his cozy little office. You think Lunch and this General White guy know each other? Caulifla whispered to her friend. Dunno. Goku shrugged. Muscle Tower, Command Center. General White sat in his chair, inhaling through his nose and exhaling through his mouth. Stood behind him was a ninja clad in a purple GI and a katana over his back. That maverick's trying to piss me off. But I can keep calm. A Zanzoken, the purple-clad ninja noted after seeing the security footage. Definitely an advanced martial arts technique. These aren't your run-of-the-mill kids, that's for sure. Interesting, General White smirked while holding his chin. What are the odds of them getting to the top? Impossible, sir, the ninja answered. They'd have to contend with Full Metal Jacket on the 3rd floor, and even if they get past him, there's still me. Damn shame, General White grinned as he cracked his neck and knuckles. I was kinda hoping for a workout. Did Lunch's words get to you that badly, sir? The ninja asked with sincerity. Shut up. The sweater-wearing general snapped angrily. He flipped a switch next to his microphone and brought it to his face. Full Metal Jacket. Just a heads up, you got company coming your way. Should be a cinch for you to clean up. The trio made their way up the stairwell expecting some resistance along the way, but there was no one around. Maybe there weren't as many guys as you thought. Goku guessed. Maybe that big guy you mentioned made it seem like there was more. Maybe. Lunch shrugged, having her shotgun primed. 1000 Zenny says Mr. Bullet Sponge waiting for us on the next floor. Welcome to the 3rd floor, a disturbingly mundane voice called out from the top of the stairwell. The trio looked over to see a giant heavily built man sitting in a relatively massive chair. The man was wearing purple jeans along with combat boots and gloves, and a sleeveless denim vest covered in pockets and pouches. The man's hair was unkempt and frizzy, and his face by default was morphed into a permanent frown, sunglasses fixed to his face to complete the look. I am Full Metal Jacket, FMJ for short. The stairwell to the next floor is over to my left, but you will have to get through me first in order to proceed. This the guy you said took a bunch of heavy-duty bullets without flinching? Caulifla asked while looking at the giant stand up. The very same, Lunch confirmed, smirking. Let me deal with this one. It's personal. Good luck. Goku cheered as he and Caulifla took a seat on a nearby bench. It is ill-advised to face me alone, traitor, FMJ stated, seeing the blonde approach him. Right back at ya, Lunch retorted, taking a basic stance. I could have taken you down if you didn't have a bunch of gnats buzzing around ya. Now let's dance. Immediately FMJ drove a massive fist to the ground in an effort to crush Lunch where she stood, but nimbly jumped out of the way before the impact. She kicked off the floor to change the direction of her momentum and launched a flying kick to the giant man's face which hit home. Whoa! The two spectators gasped as they saw Lunch's newfound strength. It will take more than that to bring me down, FMJ said, his voice monotone as ever, unfazed by Lunch's kick. I will crush you. Immediately the brute wrapped his hands around Lunch's thin frame and began to squeeze. The blonde began to strain as the pressure built up around her arms and waist, threatening to crush her ribs and rupture organs. She was stronger than the vice grip she was in, however, and began to push the offending arms away and pried herself free. You ever heard the saying, look but don't touch? Lunch snapped, swiftly pulling out her M1 Garand and looking down her sights. Try looking after this. Lunch fired directly at FMJ's left eye, and hit home. The brute's sunglasses shattered as he fell backwards with a loud thud. Goku and Caulifla could only watch this with trepidation. Lunch took notice of this and turned her attention to the spectating duo. If you're gonna get pissy about me killing this jackass, then try and realize he tried to kill me first. Lunch snapped at the silently judging duo, causing the two to flinch. We're not freaked out because you killed him, Goku meekly retorted. Look behind you. Lunch turned around to see FMJ slowly standing up, almost unfazed by the gunshot wounds to his eye. His glasses were gone, but now a large portion of his face was torn off, revealing a partial metallic skull and a beady red mechanical eye. Lunch immediately frowned and rolled her eyes. Oh, you gotta be foo. The blonde was cut off by a gigantic left hook hitting her across the face, knocking her against one of the walls of the chamber. She slumped down but quickly stood back up and saw the giant metal man approach her. Okay, so this guy's a robot. That explains why he's taking bullets like they're nothing, Lunch groaned. I am designated as android number 7 to be precise, FMJ monotonically clarified, continuing his death march towards the blonde. Hasta la vista, baby, FMJ said as he opened his mouth and a large missile fired from his gullet. The explosion created a large cloud of smoke, but Goku and Caulifla, watching from the sidelines, knew what was happening. When the dust cleared, Lunch was nowhere to be seen, and a large hole exposed the room to the elements, not enough so to counter the ventilation heating supplied to the room however. Looking around with his one normal eye and one red mechanical eye, FMJ held up a bland victory sign before turning to the two spectating children. Right as they got into a stance, a very familiar incantation was heard from behind one of the columns of the room. Ka, me. A bright light illuminated from the column as FMJ turned to investigate. Ha, me. Lunch jumped out from behind the column holding a bright blue star of her own key in her hands. Ha. She thrust her hands forward, aiming directly at FMJ's head, and the key exploded forward into a massive beam of energy. When the blast collided with the metal man's face, a loud explosion rocked the room and the blinding light obscured even Goku and Caulifla's senses, and a large dust cloud obscured the target. Lunch, meanwhile, was panting heavily and moderately singed from the unmastered technique's backfire. Sweat poured down her face as her knees buckled and she fell face first onto the floor. Lunch. The duo cried out as they ran over to her side. Are you all right? I've been better, Lunch groaned, face still planted into the floor, before tapping the ground twice with what little stamina she had left. If that didn't get Major Metalotron over there, can you finish him? Sure, Caulifla volunteered, standing up and approaching the dust cloud, leaving Goku with Lunch to make sure she'll live after delivering a Kamehameha of such magnitude. Her stamina and ki reserves were all but depleted, so after Caulifla volunteered, she went unconscious. Fortunately she had enough strength to live and her burns from the backfired Kamehameha were minor. She will recover. Caulifla approached the billowing dust cloud, waiting for either the dust to settle or for the giant to step forward. The latter was true as heavy metallic footsteps mixed with bootsteps thumped from within the settling cloud of dust. Out of the cloud came FMJ, looking much worse for wear, but relatively unfazed. Several sectors of his flesh were peeled off, revealing a metal plating and parts of a mechanical skeleton underneath. The flesh that was once on his face was now non-existent, leaving a ash-covered metal skull with red glowing eyes staring back at its new target. Caulifla took a stance, ready to fight this metal monster, while FMJ reared his fist back to deliver a punch to crush the new opponent. But it never came. Huh, Caulifla muttered, looking visibly confused as her stance relaxed. FMJ's eyes had ceased to glow and the hum of an unknown engine revved down. This engine was within FMJ and he was now motionless. Did he run out of batteries or something? Guess it's not just the food that's cheap and lacking substance, Goku jeered with a grin, now holding the unconscious Lunch over her shoulder. Kinda wish Lunch was awake to hear that one. Safe to say she won that fight. Sure. Caulifla nodded with a smile. I didn't do anything to this guy, so she gets the victory. You think she missed the memo about the Kamehameha's stamina toll? Probably. Or she wanted to end the fight sooner rather than later and took the risk. We can ask her when she wakes up. Meanwhile, we got a tower to climb. What in Sam hell was that? General White screamed with fury, just finishing his tirade of pacing and cursing several obscenities, a few of which were made up on the spot. The sweater-wearing general turned to the ninja and aggressively jabbed a finger at the subordinate's chest. You said there was no way those pipsqueaks could beat FMJ, and yet you didn't even bother to make sure his batteries were fully charged. It was a lapse in judgment, sir. The ninja waved his hands defensively. I'm still trying to figure out how Lunch created that laser beam with just her hands. At least she's out of commission, right? Get to the 4th floor, you idiot. The general snapped. You're up. Can't have our guests waiting. Why, yes, sir. The ninja saluted before running off. Goku and Caulifla, the former carrying an unconscious blonde Lunch, made their way up the stairwell, wondering what crazy foe they'll have to deal with next. As the two reached the top of the stairwell, they were greeted with an sizable and dense indoor garden, complete with a pond, several bamboo shoots, and a cabin nestled between some trees. Whoa! Goku gasped, taking in his surroundings. This place reminds me of home. Lunch began to stir as a small butterfly flapped around her nose. Naturally, this caused her to sneeze and turn blue. She drowsily looked around, noticing she was being carried by a small boy with a tail. Where am I? Oh, hi Lunch, Caulifla greeted her now blue-haired friend. Your blonde half just got done fighting this robot guy before he ran out of batteries. Lunch finished, with a smile and a much sweeter tone than her blonde counterpart. I know, it was kind of reckless for her to try a Kamehameha, but oh well. Can you walk? Goku asked as he gently put Lunch down on her feet. I'll be fine, Lunch waved off. But I won't be fighting for a little while. I'm exhausted. So, you won't be needing these feathers then? Goku asked, holding the feather Lunch gave him earlier. No, that's fine, Lunch confirmed. I'd hate to ask this of you guys, but could you? Don't worry, we got this, Caulifla finished with a thumbs up. Question is, who should go up next? This place kinda gives me a home field advantage, Goku pondered, drawing out his Nioibo and tossing it to Caulifla. You wanna try, Caulifla? Sure, Caulifla agreed, catching the red staff with ease and then looking at it with a puzzled expression. How do you work this thing? Just tell it to extend or retract when you need it to and it'll do it, Goku answered. It also knows how far you want it to go. You just gotta say the words. Cool, Caulifla grinned, spinning the polearm in one hand and catching it with the other. Caulifla's demo of the Nioibo was cut short when several kunai whistled by, prompting her to jump out of the way, and Goku taking Lunch with her to avoid more harm. Ha 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 ha. A sinister laugh called out from the indoor forest. Welcome to the 4th floor of Muscle Tower. Unfortunately, your progress stops here. Heard that from the last guy, Caulifla retorted. You must be the sneaky sort if you're throwing knives from afar. And that's the most you'll ever see of me. The voice called out. Suddenly, 3 shuriken flew from the opposite direction aiming to skewer Caulifla, but she was quick to dodge the offending blades with ease. Your tactics of evasion won't save you forever, if you can't even find me. Caulifla picked up a small rock that was nearby and threw it into the forest. Ouch! The voice screamed as a man clad in a dark purple GI fell from the tree canopy, clutching his face. I think you broke my I mean lucky shot. Lucky? Caulifla questioned, tilting her head to the side. You wouldn't shut up, so finding you was easy. Liar! The ninja shouted. There's no way in hell you could have spotted me, even if you had excellent smell. Want me to prove you wrong? The girl offered with a smirk. All right then. The ninja grinned, taking out a smoke bomb and throwing it down at Caulifla's feet. A cloud of smoke quickly enveloped Caulifla, obscuring her vision and sense of smell, but her hearing was unhindered. When the smoke cleared, the ninja was nowhere to be seen. Can you find me now? You just gave yourself away, Caulifla deadpanned. No, I didn't, the ninja shouted back, hiding behind a large tree with a painted cloak over him to try and blend in. What came next was nothing short of shocking as the tree began to crack in two and fall over, leaving the man's back exposed. He turned around only to see a smug Caulifla dusting her hands off. The ninja jumped with surprise and a pathetic yelp, and tossed his cloak disguise up in the air. You sure about that? Caulifla grinned, savoring the opportunity to show up this bumbling idiot. Okay. You've got good hearing, I'll give you that, the ninja complimented to save face. But with this next move you'll never find me. Close your eyes and count to 30. Caulifla smacked her face with her palm. That's your technique. Hide and seek. Caulifla groaned. What are you? 5. I could ask the same about you. The ninja retorted angrily. I'm 12, Caulifla said flatly, removing her hand from her face with a sigh. Tell you what, we'll play along and we'll have lunch point you out. Her senses aren't as strong as mine or Goku's, so you'll at least have an edge. I should be able to do that, Lunch agreed with a nod. In your dreams. The purple-clad ninja chuckled maniacally. All right, no peeking. The trio all closed their eyes, with Caulifla counting to keep time. By the time she finished counting, all three opened their eyes, and sure enough, the ninja was out of sight. Lunch began to look around for any signs of the ninja. Walking over to the small pond, she noticed a faint whistling noise coming from the pond. Upon further inspection, there was a singular bamboo reed stuck out of the pond and air was flowing in and out of it. Hey guys, I think I found him. The blue-haired woman called out. For a ninja, he's really easy to find, Goku commented as he walked over to the pond. Hey Goku, is there a kettle in that cabin? Caulifla asked. Yep. The boy nodded. You looking to make tea? In a way, Caulifla answered with a smirk. 2 minutes passed before Caulifla came out of the cabin with a piping hot tea kettle in her hand, held by the handle so as to not burn herself, and poured it down the strange bamboo tube. Immediately the man jumped out of the water, screaming as he spat out the hot water that was poured down the bamboo reed. Sergeant Major Purple, General White shouted over the loudspeaker. Stop making yourself look like an absolute dumbass and finish these twerps off. Of course, General. The ninja, now known as Sergeant Major Purple, nodded. I'll see it done. Purple drew a katana from the scabbard on his back. Fun and games stop here, lass, the ninja stated with a chuckle. Prepare to die. Hopefully you're better at fighting than stealth. Caulifla rolled her eyes, taking a stance with Goku's Nyoibo in hand. Hyaaaaa. Purple shouted as he jumped high into the air, his katana pointed straight down aiming to skewer Caulifla with gravity as the driving force. Caulifla looked up visibly unimpressed and held her chin with her free hand trying to think of a way to make this interesting. She came up with an idea and watched the trajectory of Purple's descent. She extended Nyoibo to be twice her height and fixed it into the ground before jumping out of the way, grinning the whole time. What happened next was nothing short of bizarre and amusing. Arg. Goku and Lunch watched this development from the sidelines. The former doubled over with laughter, while the latter couldn't help but stifle a chuckle. Purple was on his hands and feet, screaming absurdly as Nyoibo was now stuck in his lower backside. Caulifla offered to help, placing her foot on the man's hindquarters and pulled the Nyoibo out, causing Purple to yelp with surprise and pain. I know Blonde will think of several jokes for this, Lunch commented, still stifling her giggles. And here I thought Caulifla and I were the only ones with tails. Goku commented, still on his back from laughing. Definitely gonna give this a wash after we're done, Caulifla grinned, holding Nyoibo to her side. You wanna keep going, or has that last maneuver changed the mighty Purple shinobi's mind? How dare you humiliate me like this? Purple seethed with maddening fury while clenching his hindquarters. Tonight I will dine on monkey soup. I think Blonde heard that quote from somewhere, Lunch muttered while holding her chin. Question is, where? Purple grabbed his katana and proceeded to make slices at Caulifla, only for each slice to be blocked and parried by the girl's borrowed Nyoibo. Eventually Caulifla turned to the offensive, pushing Purple back by several steps, almost stumbling with some of them, until she brought down the pole to cut Purple's katana clean off its handle. Ah! The Sasanishiki. Purple shrieked in disbelief. That was a legendary blade. Legendary blade carried by a legendary moron, Caulifla added. Guess Goku's Nyoibo beats your butter knife in terms of legendary status. You done yet? Alright, I'll confess that you are pretty good, Purple commented, holding his hand behind his back. But how good are you bare-handed? I'd like to believe I'm quite adept, Caulifla spoke, trying not too hard to boast while tossing the Nyoibo back to Goku. But it's not gonna be a true martial arts test if you're holding some trick behind your back. Caulifla's form warped for a split second until she raised her hand to reveal a crescent blade in her hand. How did you? Purple stammered, as he brought his hand forward to see nothing was there. How did you get my secret boomerang shuriken? I'm faster than you, Caulifla deadpanned, spinning the blade on the tip of her finger. Look, I'm getting kind of bored here. I'm almost tempted to tap out and let Goku have a whack at you. Oh please. Purple scoffed at the notion. What's the palm tree head over there gonna do to my superior skills? He's just as strong as I am, Caulifla answered with a smirk. Also just as fast and as skilled. Goku sat where he was, nonchalantly waving at Purple with a silly grin. The ninja flinched and shook his head. Your bluffs won't fool me, he shouted. Bring him over here. I have the perfect technique to deal with you two shrimps. You sure? Caulifla questioned, arching an eyebrow. You haven't even scratched me, and I just got done pulling a pull out of your butt. Shut up and bring him over here. Purple snapped, earning a shrug from Caulifla and Goku. Guess I'm up now, Goku muttered. So, what's this technique of yours, Purple? Glad you asked, Purple boasted, pointing his index fingers out from his fists, his left gripped by his right hand. Behold, the legendary ninja split. Immediately 4 more instances of Purple emerged from behind the original and began to encircle the two. So, which one is the real me, One of the clones asked as they all smugly grinned at their surrounded targets. Definitely not a Zanzoken, Goku noted, seeing each clone appear as solid as the original. Cool move. Now to find out which one is real. Let's pick a couple and find out, Caulifla suggested, her back against his. Should we hold off on using the Kamehameha? Sounds good, Goku agreed. Don't wanna hurt this guy too bad. The two picked their targets, occasionally taking turns with the odd fifth one, and began to batter down the group, seeing that they were as solid as the original, confirming it was not an illusion. All but one was conscious, and was trembling with fear and fatigue from the bruises he sustained. How did you beat the legendary ninja quintuplets? The original Purple stammered. So they were your brothers? Goku asked, seeing the man tremble before looking at the now unconscious Purple siblings. What are their names? Grape, Violet, Lavender. I think 2 of those names would be good for girls, Caulifla commented, folding her arms. Regardless, what you got for us now? Gah! Purple shouted as he began to run for the stairwell. Goku and Caulifla were quick to pursue, while Lunch decided to stay behind and enjoy the garden while she recovered. You runts leave me no choice but to break out the red ribbon's secret weapon. Purple laughed maniacally as he approached a large cage containing a large man with stitched scars on his face. His head was flat on top and he wore a basic black suit. Goku and Caulifla skidded to a halt when they saw the man inside the cage. Say hello to your doom, you runts. Purple shouted as he threw the gate open. The two collectively watched as the large man emerged from his cage. Oh boy. Goku and Caulifla stood slack-jawed as the large man emerged from his cage with a blank expression on his face. Sergeant Major Purple was cackling madly as the man stood up with a hunched-over posture. Behold, the Red Ribbon's latest android model number 8. Purple laughed, rubbing his hands together in maniacal glee. Courtesy of Dr. Gero's R&D division. Who's Drive Gero? Goku asked. Doesn't matter, since you two are dead already. Purple shouted, a crazed look in his eyes. Go kill them, number 8. Purple grinned as he pointed his hand towards the two children, who were still taking in the appearance of this android, resembling a monster from an old movie. The android stood still, not moving an inch before he spoke. I don't wanna. Purple did a double take. No, a quadruple take at the android before he spoke again. That's really funny. Number 8. I almost thought you said you didn't want to. Purple nervously chuckled before getting stern and angry again. Now go kill those brats, that's an order. It's bad to kill. I don't like bad, Android 8 said flatly. You did bad things. You locked up the mayor and other people and made them sad. Goku and Caulifla could only watch this development with surprise and confusion. This monster man that was a machine was completely different from Full Metal Jacket. He didn't want to cause harm or serve the Red Ribbon Army. Despite this, they kept their guard up in case Purple would try something, and currently he was shouting angrily like a petulant child. Have you forgotten who's in charge here? Purple shouted at the mechanical man. You're going to disobey the Red Ribbon Army. The same group responsible for creating you. I'm sorry, but you're bad, Android 8 responded flatly. Oh ho 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 okay. Purple chuckled, his expression more deranged than before. Well, since you're being so uppity, let me remind you that you have a bomb inside of you, and all I'd have to do is press a button on this remote right here and you'll be blown to scrap. Now do as I say and destroy those brats. If I have to be bad, I want to be blown up, the bulky android retorted. This left everyone inside the room, as well as General White on the top floor, speechless. Goku was happy to see such defiance of this man created for destruction, and Caulifla shared the same sentiment. Purple was livid that his threats did not faze the gentle giant, and Android 8's expression was as blank as ever. Fine. Out of my way. Purple ran behind the giant, carrying the remote in his hand. General White. Do I have clearance to? Yes. That waste of oil was a colossal failure on Jero's part anyways. General White shouted over the loudspeaker. Blast that oaf to Kingdom Come. No. Goku jumped forward in an attempt to grab the remote from Purple, but what happened next surprised everyone present. Bam. Slowly, metal bits fell from Purple's hands as the remote he was carrying crumbled to pieces. The crazed ninja looked at his hand to see the remote destroyed, yet his hand fortunately unscathed. Goku stopped mid-charge to see someone beat him to the punch. Looking around, he saw a blue-haired lunch in the garden below holding her blonde half's M1 Garand and looking down its sights, smoke steaming from the barrel. Huh, guess I'm a good shot even without Blonde's help, Lunch said as she put down the rifle. Sorry about the interruption guys. Nah, it's fine. Goku cheerily waved it off. Thanks for the assist Lunch. That, traitorous little maverick. Purple shouted, now fuming with anger. I'll make you all pay for this. I'll make you. Purple's unhinged tirade was cut off by Caulifla punching the man square in the nose, launching him across the upper balcony of the floor and against the wall with an audible crash. The man slumped down seeing stars before he went unconscious, while Caulifla dusted her hands. That guy never learned to shut up, did he? Caulifla sighed. Thank you very much, Android 8 bowed. You are all good. You're welcome, Goku bowed along with Caulifla and Lunch in the distance. But if you don't like bad stuff that much, why not fight these bad guys? Stop them from being bad and all. I'm scared to fight, Android 8 admitted with a frown. He really is a gentle giant, isn't he? Caulifla noted with a warm smile. You might be a failure in your creator's eyes, but if your creator, Dr. Gero was a jerk, then I think the way you turned out is okay. You gonna come along Lunch? Goku called down to the lower level. No thanks. Lunch declined. I'm gonna sneeze and let Blonde stand guard here in case some red ribbon guys come up the tower. Sounds good, Goku called back, turning to Caulifla. That would sound weird out of context, wouldn't it? So, what are your names? Android 8 asked, now straightening his hunched posture. Being cramped inside a cage that size for him was not doing his back any favors. My name's Son Goku, and this is Caulifla. Goku introduced himself and his friend. If you'll excuse us, we gotta find the mayor and others of Jingle Village. My name is Android number 8, the android introduced himself. I can guide you to the top floor. You saved me, so I'll help you. It's tough to navigate the floors up above. Okay. Goku shrugged as they collectively climbed the stairwell upwards. Upon reaching the top of the stairwell, they were presented with a myriad of bland corridors, many leading to dead ends, others leading into circles. It was, for all intents and purposes, a maze. Follow me, Android 8 instructed. It's bad to get lost here. No kidding, Caulifla muttered as they trekked through the maze. Could get lost for days in this place. Hey Ader, Goku asked. I'm just curious, but what do you know about your creator? Ader. Android 8 looked back confused. Oh sorry. Android 8 is a bit of a mouthful, so I figured, Ader, would be a nice nickname. Android 8 stood in silence for a few seconds, but broke into a warm smile. I like that name, Ader responded. To answer your question, Dr. Gero was a mean man who made mean machines for the Red Ribbon Army. His wife and son don't seem as mean, but I've only seen them in the distance when I was brought online for testing. Do you know if they like working for the Red Ribbon Army? Caulifla asked, now curious as well. They didn't look happy, Ader answered. They looked sad while Dr. Gero looked mean and said mean things. So, mad scientist with an unwilling wife and son caught in the mix, Caulifla mused, rubbing her chin. Do you know what they look like? Dr. Gero is an old man with long white hair and a big mustache, Android 8 answered, holding his index finger over his lip to exemplify his point. His wife is a younger woman with long curly red hair, and their son is a tall muscly man with a red mohawk. Caulifla, why are you asking these questions? Goku asked his friend. Remember how Suno said these guys kidnapped the townsfolk to help look for the Dragon Ball around here? Caulifla elaborated. Maybe not all these Red Ribbon guys are working willingly. Some were just pulled into this because of one reason or another. I think I see what you're getting at, Goku nodded, now rubbing his chin. Not everyone in this group are bad guys. The guys we took out at least were total jerks. The Red Ribbon Army likes to recruit bad people, Ader added, hearing the conversation. They only capture good people if they don't have enough bad people. Sometimes good people are family with bad people like with Dr. Gero. Well, from the sounds of it, the bad guys still outnumber the good guys in their ranks, Goku said. We'll have to be careful if we run into these guys more. Agreed, Caulifla nodded. I'd hate to knock someone's teeth out only to learn they didn't deserve it one bit. I'm glad you're doing more good when fighting bad, Ader chimed in with a smile before gesturing to the corridor in front of them. Here's the stairwell to the top. The mayor and captured villagers are up there. Along with the boss of this whole operation, Caulifla added, palming a fist to crack her knuckles. Android number 8 was in that cage for a reason. An old man on a sloped screen shouted, his mustache flaring with his breath. He was due for processing before being deemed ready for combat. I get that, but you can thank the periwinkle dumbass for resorting to him. General White snapped back. Those runts were dismantling our established defenses left, right, and center. How the hell were we supposed to know number 8 needed a firmware update? It was labeled on the side of the cage. The man shouted and sighed. No matter. I will mark number 8 as a failure and move on. I have plans for the next designs. You're still gonna try the whole cool punk twins thing, ain't ya? General White deadpanned, earning an annoyed look from the man on screen. Silence. The TV man snapped. That is not your concern. You, however, will have to make do with what you have. I have nothing left in terms of defenses, Doc. The general snapped, hands outstretched to emphasize his point. Are there any functions to this tower you left out in the design brief? Your floor has a trap door to the one below, where your men captured that creature. Quote. Oh right. General White snapped, now happy. Alright, I'll call back when this is resolved. You better, the old man on the screen sneered. Our forces are spread thin enough as it is, and I cannot risk sending more models prematurely lest they be failures. The general flipped a switch on his console and the screen faded to black. The man leaned against the terminal with a smug grin on his face, placing his hand right where he needed it for this one moment, looking at the door. Sure enough, the door flew open as the monkey boy kicked it in with ease. Where's the Jingle Village people? Goku demanded, drawing out his Nyoibo. We're here to get 'em out. Congrats on making it all the way to the top, General White applauded with condescension. Not everyone can scale this fortress the way you jokers and the renegade bucket of bolts did there. General White, stop being bad, Ader pleaded. Oh, so the traitor finally decides to speak up. The general smirked. Well, I'm sorry to see you all in such high spirits, but I kinda have to. General White pushed the button causing the floor underneath the intruding trio to open underneath them. The sweater-wearing man smirked with a chuckle. Quote. Bring him down a bit. The trio fell into a large room below. Goku and Caulifla were quick to right themselves and land neatly. This neatness was interrupted when Ader landed right on top of them. Panicking, the android got up off the two children. Are you two okay? Ader cried out. Yeah, we're fine, Caulifla groaned as she and Goku got up. We've had heavier things land on us. Where are we? Goku inquired, looking at the empty brick room, only windows and the trapdoor above being the only distinctions. You guys are in the super secret 5th floor. General White boasted from above. If you lot want to leave, then do as I say. Give me the Dragon Balls and your radar for tracking them. Over our dead bodies. Goku shouted while Caulifla stuck out her tongue and pulled an eyelid at the general. Figured as such, General White chuckled. Slowly the trap door closed up before the loudspeaker in the room came to life with the man's voice. While you get comfy down there, I'm gonna send a little friend of mine to tear you apart. That doesn't sound good, Caulifla muttered. Do you plan to do bad things with the Dragon Balls? Ader asked with worry. No way. Goku denied. I only want one of them, the one my grandpa left me before he died, and Caulifla is just curious. He's right, Caulifla nodded. If we wanted to do anything with them, we'd want to do something good. That is good to hear, Ader sighed with a smile. Hey Goku, since I fought the last guy, you wanna go up next? Caulifla asked her friend. Sure. Goku agreed with a shrug. Ah, and here I thought you were gonna pick who goes first with rock paper scissors. General White laughed. Well, since you're so eager to go up, kid, behold the jiggler. Jiggler. Goku repeated, weirded out. What is that? Slowly, one of the walls of the room began to rise, and from behind it was this massive pink monster. Morbidly obese would be a gross understatement to describe whatever it was, as its feet were barely visible from underneath all the warty flab that made up this creature's being. It possessed 2 antennae on its head and a sinister grin showing off several rows of teeth. This answer your question, kid? General White called out over the loudspeaker, his smirk almost audible. Goku jumped towards the warty beast with a fist outstretched aiming for its face. The jiggler made no efforts to dodge and took the full force of Goku's punch causing its face to cave in. Only to rebound back and bounce Goku away. Ha ha ha. The name isn't just for looks, you know. General White boasted. Okay. So any physical attacks of mine will just bounce off, Goku mulled as he took a defensive stance. How about, me? Goku held his hands to his side, pooling his latent ki to them. Me. The ki blast launched forward aimed directly at the jiggler's massive stomach, but the blast bounced back with the same effect as Goku's punch. Before the attack could literally backfire, the boy dissipated the flow of ki from his hands to dispel the Kamehameha. Sheesh. This guy is tough. Goku sighed, seeing that his technique failed to do anything. The jiggler's antennae began to wiggle as a lightning bolt conducted between them and zapped Goku. Ouch. Should we help him? Ader asked Caulifla. Nah, he's fought worse than this, Caulifla waved off. Still, this thing isn't taking damage. Goku began to attack the monster from different angles to find a chink in the gelatinous armor, but none could be found. Every attack dealt to the monster simply bounced back to its sender. The beast's tongue then stretched to envelop the boy and roll back into its mouth. Ader stammered with worry while Caulifla was patiently waiting. Seconds passed before Goku pried the jiggler's jaws open and jumped out of its mouth. Suffice to say that Goku was not happy with what had just happened to him. I don't know what you've been eating, but you need a breath mint regardless. Goku jeered, his nose cringing with irritation. Nothing about this guy is solid. Wait. Goku began putting the pieces of this puzzle together until the light bulb went off in his head. Quickly he pulled out a storage capsule and clicked it open, revealing a suitcase emerging from its respective explosion. Goku took the coat he stored away and put it on, all while avoiding the jiggler's lightning antennae. Put your coat on, Caulifla. Goku cried out as he tossed the insulated clothing to her. She complied as Goku infused his fist with ki and threw a punch to the wall. The masonry was strong enough to withstand mortar shells, but those paled in comparison to the punch Goku just performed, and the wall came crumbling down, letting the cold of the outdoors into the chamber. The jiggler began to panic and its movements began to slow until it was completely frozen over, icicles forming on its stubby limbs and antennae. Let's see you rebound after this. Goku let loose another punch to the face, just like the one that initially failed, only this time there was no bounce back. The jiggler's face began to crack upon impact and fissures spread out and ruptured its now frozen body until the creature in its entirety crumbled into disgusting ice cubes. Nice one. Caulifla cheered. And good call breaking out the coats before busting down that wall. Oh crap. Goku cried out. I forgot to get you a coat, Ader. It's fine. Ader waved it off, seemingly unfazed. If the cold bothered me, I still have this suit to wear. Okay. Goku sighed with relief. The boy pulled out his Nyoibo and fixed it into the ground and held on. Extend. Goku was launched upwards by the force of Nyoibo's extension and crashed through the roof with no trouble. Caulifla jumped up after him, forming a ceiling hole of her own and landing neatly a few feet away. General White was at his control console, visibly furious that these upstart twerps not only destroyed his favorite creature, but put more holes into his precious fortress. You little shits. General White cursed, grabbing a revolver and firing. I've had it up to here with you. The bullets that didn't bounce harmlessly off Goku's skin were caught by Caulifla's hands and tossed aside harmlessly, leaving the sweater-wearing general absolutely dumbstruck. What's the matter? Caulifla grinned. Never seen someone tank bullets like this. Goku had finished pulling Ader up to the top floor and dusted off where the revolver bullets had hit his skin. If you're done, how about showing us where you're keeping the villagers? I'm not so easy to push over, kid, General White stated as he took off his sweater, leaving a black muscle shirt over his torso. Physically he was well built aside from a slight beer belly. I'll take you runts down myself. General White approached the small duo, with Ader backing up. He launched what looked like two powerful punches into each of their guts and grinned when he had hit home, but that grin faded into shock when he saw the two were completely unfazed. Are you for real right now? Caulifla questioned, pushing the man's fist away from her and then lightly tapping the man's shin, causing the large man to yelp with pain. Your periwinkle ninja put up a better fight than that. Goku then proceeded to uppercut the man, sending him upwards and bouncing off the ceiling to the space behind his command console. The proud general was now trembling with fear as he was clearly outclassed, but something caught his eye, a prototype hyper pistol. Discreetly he put the gun into his back pocket and stood up, hands in the air. "I surrender," the general cried out with a blank expression. "I will hand over the mayor and villagers." Caulifla grew suspicious at this sudden shift in demeanor, and Goku's thoughts reflected the sentiment. The two nodded and kept a watchful eye on the general. "This guy has something fishy up his sleeve, I know it," Goku thought as they followed the man to a door on the other side of the room. General White pressed a button to the side and the door opened, revealing uncomfortable living quarters where the mayor of Jingle Village and several men from the same settlement were staying. Everyone inside looked up from their misery to see General White in the doorway. "Muscle Tower has fallen and I'm to relinquish my prisoners," General White announced in a disturbingly placid tone. "Follow these two. We're free to go." The elderly mayor hesitantly spoke as he stood from his spot. Goku and Caulifla nodded to confirm as the rest of the prisoners went to grab their coats. The proceedings ground to a halt when the general swiftly grabbed the mayor by the neck and pulled out his hyper pistol. "Nobody move, or I'm popping the mayor's gray matter against the wall," General White shouted, returning to his former demeanor, albeit with more insanity. "And don't think you'll take this gun's ammo like that cheap revolver. This is an experimental hyper pistol." "I knew it," Goku and Caulifla cried out in unison, while Ader was watching this unfold with unease. "General White," Ader cried out, "please stop doing bad things. Like I'm gonna listen to a broken down traitor like you." The hostage-holding general sneered. "You'll get yours. So what are you two runts gonna do now? How many rounds does that pistol have?" Goku inquired, his expression stern. Quickly, he darted his eyes for Caulifla to follow. She gave a subtle nod when she saw this. "2 shots, General White answered. "Why, you got some death wish or something?" "All I needed to hear," Goku said flatly, outstretching his hands. Ader and the hostage mayor were shocked at this development. The general took this invitation to open fire and aimed directly for the boy's chest. He pulled the trigger, and the bullet hit its mark, knocking Goku onto his back. Everyone except for Caulifla gasped. The girl vanished and reappeared right next to General White's arm, kicking the gun out of the man's hand as well as causing him to lose his arm bar around the mayor's neck. "Son Goku," Ader cried out seeing his friend knocked down. The android's normally calm demeanor began to shift into one of fury as his eyes whited out and the mechanical man began to snarl. "You hurt him. Oh crap," General White meekly muttered before receiving a punch that sent him flying out through the wall and several kilometers outside. After the red ribbon general was out of sight, Ader calmed down and ran over to the collapsed Goku, whom was being checked on by Caulifla. "He's all right," Caulifla nodded, earning a sigh of relief from Ader. "Just a bruise to the chest." Goku pushed himself upright and gave a thumbs up after a small cough. "That was risky, but it worked." "You're okay," Ader cheered. "I thought that gun would have killed you. Had it been a year ago, it might have done so," Caulifla added. "But we're both tougher since then." "That was one heck of a punch by the way," Goku commented, earning an embarrassed look from Ader. "I don't think I'd be able to pull one off like that even if I wasn't holding back." "Well, you were hurt," Ader muttered. "Excuse me, but thank you very much." The mayor interrupted, unable to contain his excitement. "You've saved all of us from those evil men. Don't sweat it," Goku waved off. "Let's go get lunch and head back to Jingle Village." "But we have better food at." "He meant our friend lunch," Caulifla interrupted for correction. "She was helping the residents deal with these guys before we showed up." The group had a hearty laugh as they made their descent down the tower and back to Jingle Village. Suno's house, 2 hours later. Suno's family, the mayor, and Android 8 were all watching in disbelief as Goku and Caulifla wolfed an entire buffet's worth of food, most of which they brought along for they didn't wish to impose too much upon the poor villagers. Lunch was unfazed by all of this given how she spent 8 months with the duo and watched the horror unfold both in her blue and blonde state. It wasn't long before the mealtime slaughter ended and the two were happily rubbing their bellies. I now see why you brought your own food, Suno's mother observed, a nervous bead of sweat rolling down her face. So lunch? Goku spoke up, turning to the presently blue-haired woman. What are you gonna do now that Muscle Tower is cleared out? I'm not sure, Lunch shrugged. I mean, I could tag along with you guys to help search for those Dragon Balls if you're okay with that. You know, we never found that Dragon Ball thingy those goons were after, Suno's father, a man with short black hair and a thick mustache, said. I was thinking it was a wild goose chase. I found it, Ader spoke up, hesitantly pulling out a Dragon Ball with 2 stars floating inside. I found it on a walk, but kept it hidden when I heard General White say he would kill the villagers after they found it. By George, the mayor exclaimed. You sir have a heart of gold. You are most welcome to stay with us here in Jingle Village. Are you sure? Ader asked with hesitation. I'm an android. What you are doesn't matter, my friend. The mayor iterated with glee. You and your friends saved us all. I don't know what to say, Ader sobbed with tears of joy. Since you guys have nowhere to stay for the time being, you wanna stay the night here? Suno offered to the duo. If you're offering, sure, Caulifla agreed, with Goku nodding along. Suno's room, later that night. Suno sat in her pajamas staring at the 2-star Dragon Ball with wonder in her eyes. It's so pretty, she muttered, turning the orb to see the 2 stars remain in the same spot. My thoughts exactly, Caulifla agreed, also in pajamas. I'd offer to let you keep it, but if those red ribbon goons are after them. No, I get it, Suno cut off. I'd rather be safe from those guys than have a shiny jewel. Blonde would certainly want to run off with it, a blue-haired Lunch commented as she walked back in after brushing her teeth. She has a thing for shiny things. Sounds like her, Caulifla noted, earning a small chuckle from Lunch. Their reverie was interrupted when a knocking was heard at their door. Caulifla, we have a problem, Goku's muffled voice quietly called from behind the door. The spiky-haired girl got up and opened the door to see Goku in his pajamas and holding a blank dragon radar. What is it? Caulifla asked. Is it something with the dragon radar? Yeah, the boy confirmed. The screen's been blank since we got here, and Ader couldn't figure it out. He's good with machines, but apparently not something like this. Whoever made the device is a genius, Ader muttered as he waddled down the hall. Caulifla thought for a second and then spoke up. Bulma said she built it, right? She asked. Maybe she can repair it. You're right. Goku beamed with renewed excitement. And she said she lives in West City, so that's where we should check. How do you plan to get there? Ader asked. If Kintoan were still around, we could travel that way, Goku mentioned with a twinge of hurt in his voice. Otherwise, we could go by foot. Darn, Suno muttered. If only we had some vehicle we could lend you. Had I known about Kintoan, I would have saved a truck or two before demolishing Muscle Tower, Lunch said, now feeling sad her foresight did not allow it. Well, we should rest up if we're gonna be walking, Caulifla suggested. Well, goodnight everyone. The next day, Goku, Caulifla and the blonde-haired Lunch were surrounded by the Jingle Village residents stating their plans of traveling to West City to repair the Dragon Radar. When the subject of walking there was brought up, the topic of Kintoan soon arose once again, catching one of the elders of the village by surprise. Did you say Kintoan? The mustachioed man walked forward. You can ride one of those. Me, Caulifla, and Lunch when she's in her blue state, Goku clarified. We ran into this guy who blew it up. Nonsense. The elder laughed, leaving the trio confused. An explosion might startle a Kintoan, but by no means destroy it. I remember there were quite a few zipping around this region when I was a wee lad. Caulifla beamed with excitement at this while Goku felt a tad embarrassed that he hadn't tried calling for Kintoon since that incident. I thought it was toast after that, Goku nervously chuckled, scratching the back of his head. Kintoon. Goku's voice echoed across the snowy expanse. Seconds turned to minutes before a welcome whirring caught their attention, along with the all-too-familiar yellow contrail. Kintoon was indeed still here, and the two children cheered and jumped with joy. When the fluffy cloud parked itself in front of the trio, Goku went in to give it a big hug, followed by Caulifla. I missed you, buddy. Goku cried out, happy his cloud was back. I thought you were gone. While the two were hugging the cloud, Goku's hug slowly moved from Kintoon to Caulifla. The two were immediately surprised when they realized what happened, and their faces tinted red for a second before they both backed off and nervously cleared their throats. Lunch saw this and chuckled lightheartedly. It ain't a secret you two like each other, Lunch said with a smile. No need to be so timid when you guys hug. Speaking of timid, Caulifla said, changing the subject. Is Kintoon solid for you in that state? Dunno, Lunch shrugged. She jumped up preparing to land on the cloud, but her feet met snow instead of yellow fluff. Guess not. Lunch pulled out a feather and tickled her nose with it. Eventually she sneezed and was now in her blue state. She jumped up again and instead of landing on snow, she stood on cloud as Kintoon accepted her blue state. Incredible, the mayor muttered, seeing this development. I never thought I'd see another Kintoon, let alone someone who can ride one. Let alone 3 people who can ride one, the village elder added, seeing Goku and Caulifla board the somersault cloud with no trouble. Good luck out there, friends. Be careful out there. Suno called out. Thanks everyone. Goku called out as he and Caulifla waved. Kintoon, to West City. Immediately the somersault cloud darted into the sky carrying the trio of adventurers to their destination, all while the residents of Jingle Village watched their saviors and newest friends continue on with their journey.